Bristol Bay is an incredibly valuable ecosystem. This region provides almost 50% of America's seafood. It's incredibly rich. Oil and gas drilling in Bristol Bay could cause seismic impacts, which are incredibly damaging to marine mammals and fish, oil spills, air and water pollution, and dumping of drilling muds.
Our migration of salmon that go out and the salmon that come in is right in the path of where oil and gas is proposed to be developed. We start messing with the bottom of the ocean and we get oil and gas development. It has the potential to really hurt a number of things. Bristol Bay is predicated on its subsistence culture. The most important salmon you could get is the one that you're putting on your plate.
Fishing, it's the backbone of our communities in the villages. 80% of what lands on the table is what we catch.
I'm able to support myself and my family. We rely on fish so much because it's abundant and there's a lot of nutrients we can get from it too.
You want to grab it or what?
Yeah, I'll grab it.
I think if you live here in Bristol Bay, salmon just become a part of your life. You just grow up around salmon, and summertime it's all about salmon, and you live by the tide and you're down here checking your net and you're working really hard to get all those salmon to make it through the winter. So it's a big part of who we are as people of Bristol Bay.
So I want to see how you cut out the bones. When you can the meat, do you do the skin too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, you want some?
Haley.
It's a huge family tradition. It's something that I did when I was little with my grandmother and my mom and dad, and it's something that my kids do today with their grandma and grandpa. If my great-grandchildren can do exactly what I do and put fish into the smokehouse, or like my dad, who's going to be 76 years old, can go out on a gillnet boat and commercial fish,
Okay.
that's my wish.
Okay, so now
I would very much like to have my children, my grandchildren, to continue on fishing. I would hate to lose that.
It's not part of our life to harm the soil and harm the wildlife. It's not part of our life. It's something we don't think about.
I think everybody from the extractive industry side, or even the politicians, will say, we're not here to harm fish. But they don't have an honest conversation with the people of this region who say, we want to protect our salmon. And so for offshore oil and gas, that conversation has been going on since the 80s.
I was in my 20s fighting offshore oil and gas. I'm going on 64 years old, and the threat is just alive today as it was when I was in my 20s.
When we had these early conversations about offshore oil and gas in the 80s, then we had Exxon Valdez oil spill. And that's a huge wake-up call.
I've heard promises that they will contain it, but history has shown that in other parts, it's never the case.
It's been leased before, and leases had to be bought back at taxpayer expense.
The people of this region are getting really tired and want permanent protection of this resource that is a sustainable resource. It comes back. As long as you manage it carefully, it'll come back year after year. And it has been coming back for centuries. And so why should we lose that industry, our sustainable industry, over something that's just short-lived?
America needs to realize that this is a unique place and it needs the protections. The resources and the habitat need the extra protection. We need industry to come into Bristol Bay, but not at the sake of our natural resources. We want some resolve. We want some assurances that our future is going to be intact in a pristine Bristol Bay.
There are thousands of jobs created and provided each year by the fisheries. These are sustainable jobs that are here year after year. 2.3 billion a year versus about 7 billion over the life of an oil field. It just doesn't belong in a place like this. There are just some places that there should not be oil and gas drilling.
Earlier today, I took action to make sure that one of America's greatest natural resources and a massive economic engine, not only for Alaska but for America, Bristol Bay, is preserved for future generations.
The leadership shown by this administration to protect a place in Alaska that is so important to the people here is one of the best decisions this administration has made.